We're not lazy today. We are here and we are getting it done as it relates to all the news coming out of the NFL trade deadline, which also was today. And we've got our Week 8 awards coming up. We're going to do a Vikings-Packers rewatch, plus plenty more over the course of the next hour. Shereen, let's get right to it. The trade deadline came and went today without much fanfare, as expected. Most of the trades that were going to be done last week so that teams could get their players in the fold for Week 9. If you do a trade today, for example, the one deal that was done, DeAndre Washington acquired by the Dolphins, the running back sent from the Chiefs to Miami because Myles Gaskin injured an MCL on Sunday against the Rams and is going to miss some time. That's a necessity trade. That's a one of our guys got injured on Sunday, we better do something about it trade. That's the one major category of potential trades that we would have seen. And we saw that because the Dolphins had that need. They kept the injury quiet until they could do the deal. Now they get some help at running back, even though he'll have to wait 6 days. He won't be available this weekend when the Dolphins play the Arizona Cardinals, Shereen.
Yeah, and Mike, I was hoping we'd see at least one big name go, whether it was Will Fuller or whoever. We had a ton of names that were bannered about all week, and none of those guys went. They all remained with their teams, and I was kind of disappointed we didn't have at least one kind of splash trade. I mean, these were just kind of okay, a couple guys traded, moved to different teams. Maybe they help, maybe they don't, but they were all small deals. But I do think, Mike, and you've talked a lot about this, that you think the trade deadline should be moved back regardless. I think this year in particular, it should have been moved back 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, we've had all these COVID cases. I would be curious if the Cowboys had another week or two, whether they might try to go trade for a quarterback, considering they put Andy Dalton on the COVID list today. But they're out of time now, and these deals are done. Now, if you want to cut a player, pick up a player off he has to go through waivers now if a player is cut. So no chance for that. But I do think it should have been pushed back at least for this year.
That's the one big procedural change after today. Before today, anyone with 4 or more years of service who is cut instantly becomes a free agent and can sign with any team. After today, everyone who is released must pass through waivers. And look, I'm a believer, Shereen, that there should be no trade deadline. Why should there be an artificial barrier on the ability of franchises to transact business? You want to do a trade Christmas Day? Do a trade Christmas Day. You want to do a trade? Now, I think rosters should lock for the teams when the regular season ends, the teams that aren't making it to the postseason. So a team can't go buy some guy that would otherwise be done for the year and load up the cannon for a playoff run and give up a draft pick next year to do that. But I'm a free enterprise kind of guy when it comes to letting the two teams that want to do business. I don't like the artificial deadline. I don't like it now, especially with 7 playoff spots per conference, because there aren't enough teams that can say, you know what, we're done. Let's go ahead and do some sort of a fire sale and load up on draft picks for next year. And if a team wants to go out and try to enhance its roster in the hopes of pursuing a championship, go ahead and do it. How often do you really see a guy who gets acquired during the season via trade come in and make a huge difference? Sometimes they help, but I'm at a loss to think that there was a Super Bowl champion that was pushed over the top by an in-season trade. And, of course, as I say that, I'm thinking, boy, there must be one obvious one that I'm missing. But I can't think of one, Shereen. Can you?
I really can't. And, the Cowboys traded all those high picks for receivers at trade deadlines, and they didn't make much of a difference. But I can't think of one right at the trade deadline that really made that big of a difference.
Of course, there was one 31 years ago that was supposed to make a big difference for a team that had Super Bowl aspirations, that had everything it needed but a running back, and gave up enough for the Cowboys to win 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. Thanks a lot for that one, Shereen, for the Vikings and Herschel Walker. But other than that, there have been efforts, but they have not largely been successful. Will Fuller not traded by the Houston Texans today. There'd been some chatter, and you never know when talk is out there who's really pushing it. Was it interim GM Jack Easterby working the media a little bit to try to create an interest in Will Fuller so he didn't have to initiate talks? Because when you're the one who initiates, you give up leverage. You make it known through leaks to the media that maybe there's interest in a guy, and maybe people call. The Packers and the Texans were rumored to be linked on a possible Will Fuller trade. We heard the sound from Aaron Rodgers at the top of the program, and we had it on earlier today on PFT Live. He, in a very roundabout indirect way, as Aaron Rodgers likes to send messages, made it clear he wouldn't object to some help at receiver, but they weren't able to get it done. And it doesn't surprise me. What are you getting with Will Fuller? You're getting a guy that's got an 8-figure salary. You'd be picking up roughly half of it for the rest of the year. He's got injury issues. And you've got to implement him on the fly into your scheme, and it may or may not work. And what do you give up to get him? You know, what did the Texans want when you consider Mohamed Sanu got a second-round pick last year for the Falcons?
And that's the thing, Mike. They did want too much. And the Texans had a lot of guys they were listening to offers from, and none of them worked out. And the reason none of them worked out is because the Texans wanted too much. I would have loved to have seen the Packers add a receiver. I mean, when you look at those receivers, what they've done beyond Devontae Adams, it has not been good. Alan Lazard obviously was having a really good season when he got hurt. But those guys just haven't gotten it done really behind Devontae Adams. And they did need to add somebody, but they couldn't do it. Couldn't pull off the deal, didn't want to give up what it took. And I know Aaron Rodgers back in the draft wanted a receiver drafted high. And obviously in the first 2 rounds, they didn't do that, taking a quarterback and a running back. So he did not get the receiver that he wanted either through the draft or through a trade.
I mentioned that the Chiefs traded running back DeAndre Washington to the Dolphins. Obviously, the arrival of Le'Veon Bell made Washington expendable. The Dolphins traded Isaiah Ford to the Patriots for a 2022 7th-round draft pick. That's the closest thing to nothing that you can give up for a guy. Not just next year's 7th-rounder, a 7th-rounder 2 years from now. So kind of a strange thing. Apparently someone with the Patriots had an affinity for Ford, and I don't know that he's going to make a huge difference for a team that already has its head coach making some excuses, even though he says they're not excuses. They are excuses for why the team's 2-5 this year. By the way, it just came in from Matt Barrows of The Athletic. Dante Pettis of the 49ers was waived today. They were unable to find a trade partner for him, so he will pass through waivers.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.